Have you ever wondered how our brain learns and stores information? It's a fascinating question, isn't it? Our brain's ability to learn and remember is a complex process, a symphony of neurological activities. Each note, each rhythm playing a crucial role in this miraculous concert of cognition. It might seem overwhelming, but don't worry. We're about to embark on a journey navigating this intricate maze of neuroscience. In this video, we will explore 5 tips based on neuroscience that can help you improve your learning and study habits. The first tip is distributed practice. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is distributed practice? Well, it's a study technique that involves spreading out your study sessions over time. Picture it as a marathon, not a sprint. It's about consistency and regularity, rather than cramming all your study into one intense session. You see, our brains are not designed to absorb a large amount of information in a single shot. Instead, they prefer a steady, continuous stream of data. It's like watering a plant. You wouldn't flood it all at once and expect it to thrive, would you? The same principle applies to learning. Distributed practice taps into the way our brains are wired. It leverages the psychological spacing effect, which states that we learn more effectively when we spread out our learning over time. So if you're studying for an exam, instead of pulling an all-nighter, try breaking up your study material into smaller, manageable chunks and review them periodically over several days or weeks. But why does this method work so well? The answer lies in the process of consolidation. Each time we revisit the material, our brain strengthens the neural connections associated with that information. This reinforcement leads to better long-term retention of information. Consider it as building a wall. Each study session adds another layer of bricks. The more layers you add over time, the stronger and more durable the wall becomes. And just like a well-built wall, the information stays put, resistant to the winds of forgetfulness. Additionally, distributed practice also reduces the cognitive load, making the learning process less stressful and more enjoyable. It's like taking a scenic route on a long drive. You get to enjoy the journey, absorb the scenery, and arrive at your destination feeling refreshed and ready, rather than exhausted and frazzled. So instead of cramming all your study sessions into a short period, distribute them over time for better results. Trust me, your brain will thank you for it. Not only will you retain the information longer, but you'll also find the process much more manageable and less stressful. Remember, it's not about how fast you can cram, but how well you can retain. And that's the beauty of distributed practice. The second tip is active recall. Picture this. You're preparing for an exam. You've spent countless hours reading and highlighting your notes, but when it comes time to actually take the test, the information seems to have evaporated from your brain. Frustrating, isn't it? Well, let's introduce you to a method that can help you avoid this predicament. Active recall. Active recall is the practice of actively trying to remember information from memory. Instead of just passively reading over your notes or textbooks, you're engaging your brain in a much more active and dynamic process. You're asking your brain to dig deep and pull out the information you've learned. So how does this work? When you actively recall information, you're strengthening the neural connections in your brain. Each time you pull a piece of information from your memory, you're exercising those neural pathways, making them stronger and more efficient. It's like going to the gym, but for your brain. You might be wondering, why is this better than just rereading or highlighting? Well, when you reread or highlight, you're not really forcing your brain to recall the information. You're just revisiting it. But with active recall, you're pushing your brain to retrieve the information, which strengthens your memory of it. Research has shown that active recall is one of the most effective ways to study. It's been proven to significantly improve retention of information and is more effective than traditional study methods. Active recall can be practiced in a variety of ways. You could use flashcards where you write a question on one side and the answer on the other. You can also simply practice explaining the concept to yourself or someone else without looking at your notes. In essence, active recall is all about making your brain work a little harder during your study sessions. It's about actively engaging with the material, not just passively reading it. By actively trying to recall information, you are essentially strengthening your brain's ability to remember. The third tip is interleaved practice. Now, you might be wondering, what is interleaved practice? It's a simple yet effective study method that involves mixing up different topics or types of problems within a single study session. This is in stark contrast to blocked practice, where you focus on one topic or type of problem at a time. Interleaved practice is like making a study salad. Rather than eating all the lettuce, then all the tomatoes, and then all the cucumbers, you mix them up. You take a bite of lettuce, then a bite of tomato, then a bite of cucumber. In the context of studying, this could mean working on a math problem, then a science question, then a history quiz. But why is this method so effective? Well, it all comes down to how our brains work. Our minds are naturally inclined to seek and identify patterns. When we mix things up, we force our brains to work harder, to sort through the information and to identify the patterns that exist. This process helps improve our problem-solving skills and promotes better transfer of learning. So, how can you implement interleaved practice into your study routine? It's all about planning. When you're setting up your study schedule, instead of allocating blocks of time to a single subject or topic, try mixing things up. Spend a bit of time on math, then switch over to science, then to history. This will not only keep your brain actively engaged, but it will also prevent the boredom that often comes with focusing on a single subject for a long period. It's important to note that while interleaved practice can be highly effective, it can also feel more challenging. You might feel like you're not making as much progress because you're constantly switching gears. But remember, the goal is not to make studying easier. The goal is to make learning more effective. And sometimes that means stepping out of your comfort zone and pushing your brain a little bit harder. So next time you sit down to study, give interleaved practice a try. You might be surprised at how much more you can learn and retain. Mixing different topics or problems in a single study session can greatly enhance your problem-solving skills. The fourth tip is self-explanation. It's a simple yet powerful tool in your arsenal to boost your learning effectiveness. It's all about becoming your own teacher. But what does self-explanation really mean? Imagine you're trying to solve a complex math problem or trying to understand an intricate scientific theory. Instead of just reading the solution or the explanation, you try to explain it to yourself. You walk yourself through each step, each concept, each argument, as if you're teaching it to someone else, but that someone else is you. The beauty of self-explanation is that it pushes you to consolidate your knowledge. It pushes you to piece together different bits of information, different concepts and ideas, to form a coherent understanding. It's like solving a puzzle, where each piece of information is a puzzle piece. And as you try to fit these pieces together, you're not just memorizing, you're understanding. But that's not all. Self-explanation is also an excellent way to identify gaps in your understanding. As you explain a concept to yourself, you might stumble upon a step or a part that you can't explain. That's a gap. And once you identify it, you can go back, study that part more, and fill the gap. It's an iterative process of learning, understanding, identifying gaps, and filling them. By explaining to yourself the process, you can easily identify and fill the gaps in your understanding. The fifth and final tip is sleep. Sleep, often overlooked, holds a pivotal role in effective learning. It's during this time of rest when your brain gets to work, consolidating the information you've absorbed throughout the day. Picture your mind as a busy office. While you're awake, it's all hustle and bustle, gathering data and experiences. When you sleep, it's like the office after hours, a time for sorting, filing, and storing all that information. Now, what happens when you skimp on sleep? Imagine that office again, but this time it's been working around the clock, no time for organizing. Files are strewn everywhere, cluttered and lost in the chaos. That's your brain on insufficient sleep. It struggles to store and retrieve information, impairing your learning. So remember to give your mind the rest it needs. It's not just about feeling refreshed. It's about giving your brain the time to secure what you've learned. Never underestimate the power of a good night's sleep in aiding your learning process. Let's quickly recap what we've learned today. We started by discussing the power of distributed practice, a strategy that encourages you to spread out your study sessions over time. This technique leverages the way our brains form long-term memories, making your learning more durable and less crammed. Next, we delved into active recall, a technique that challenges you to bring information to mind instead of simply rereading your notes. This active engagement strengthens your memory pathways, helping you remember more in the long run. We also explored interleaved practice, a method that mixes up different skills in a single study session. This strategy keeps your brain agile and enhances your ability to apply what you've learned in different contexts. Then, we highlighted the importance of self-explanation, a process of articulating your understanding of the material, which promotes deeper learning. Lastly, we emphasized the crucial role of sleep in memory consolidation and learning efficiency. With these neuroscience-based tips, you're now equipped to make your study sessions more effective. Happy studying!